Hi, I'm James Muir, and this is a screencast for Make More Noise. We're going to have a look at another free plugin today. This is from a company called Elysia, and it's called the Niveau Filter, and it's a EQ plugin. It's a clever kind of high or low pass filter, but with a sort of slight tweak, a difference, if you will. So first thing to talk about is where to get this from. So let's just very quickly launch Safari, if I can find Safari. There's Safari. Just move that in so it's the right size for the window, and into the Google search bar I'm just going to type Elysia. That's Elysia, and it's the second one down here. Elysia sounds good, Elysia.com. And if you just look on the main page here, you can see Niveau Filter plugin. Download now, it's free. And you just click here to request a download link. They'll send you that in an email. You can then download the plugin. It's bundled with an installer. So just follow the instructions with the installer, and that'll walk you through the install process. So that's where to get it from. Let's have a quick look at what it does. So here's our plugin. We've got an acoustic guitar loop here, which with no processing sounds like this. And then to make the plugin active, you've got this active button here, which you can click, and you can see that the surround changes color. Then you've got the EQ gain in plus or minus, and you've got the frequency around which the EQ gain is centered. So let's have a quick look at it on this EQ plugin, and then we'll be a bit more nerdy and have a look at it with some pink noise and analyzer so you can see exactly what it's doing. So that's the EQ gain, low or high, and as you could hear, as you were rolling off the bottom end, it was getting brighter, and as you were rolling off the top end, it was getting bassier. Now this is the frequency around which that is centered, so starting from 26 Hertz and going up to sort of 1.5, 2.2K. So let's just do that again with a couple of different EQ centers, and we'll sort of go 700, and then probably down here sort of in the 100 frequency. Not really a lot of point on acoustic guitar going down into these much lower frequencies, as there's not a lot of that in acoustic guitar. So let's do that again at 700. And then with a slightly lower frequency. And then finally, you've got a times 10 knob here for the frequency. So if you wanted to make your center point for your frequency sweep, let's say 4.5K, you'd move it around to 450 Hertz, and then times 10 gives you 4.5K, and that would sound like this. Very thin there on the top end. So that basically gives you a full frequency range, because if you think about it, you've got, say, 50 Hertz here, 52 Hertz, times that by 10 is 500, or 2.2K, which gets you right up to 20K. So anything you wanted to do over here, if you run out of frequencies, this range here from 26 Hertz to 2.2K is not wide enough for you. You just engage the times 10 knob, and then that'll give you the same frequency center point, but times by 10. So 10 times 700 would be 7K. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to bring up a pink noise generator and try and give you a bit of a clearer idea of how this plugin works. The way I imagine it is like a seesaw or like a set of scales. So if you push down on one side, the other side comes up. Let me set up something and I'll come straight back to you. Okay, now for the nerdy stuff. So if you have a quick look here at our Logic channel strip, you'll see we've got Logic's test oscillator first in our chain, and then Niveau Filter, and then Logic's multimeter. So let's just move the multimeter there so you can see that a little bit more clearly, and we'll put the Niveau Filter in the middle. So what I've done is as I said, I've loaded up the test oscillator. I'm going to switch that to pink noise. I've got my channel strip muted here because pink noise, as you can hear if I unmute, is not the funnest thing to listen to. So I don't think we need to sit and hear that. So let's just move that back to the 12 o'clock position. And if you look on the multimeter, you can now see we've got a fairly flat response. And we'll move that one back to the 12 o'clock position as well. And take the frequency out of the times 10 mode. So now if we roll off the bottom end like we would with a normal low pass filter, what you should see is the multimeter here, the low end will start cutting away, but at the same time we'll get a slight peak rise in the high end, and then we'll do it vice versa, so we'll cut the top end and we should get a slight rise in the low end. So cutting the bottom end out, cutting the top end out even, and you can see that we've cut the top end and we've got a rise in the bottom end of the EQ, and then completely vice versa. Get a rise in the brightness, but we're taking out some of the bass. And as I mentioned before, you can just sweep this frequency knob round here. And if you want it to be working on even higher frequencies, you hit the times 10. So that's in the normal mode. That's with the times 10. So you can see we've cut out a huge amount of the bottom end here, and we've given it quite a rise in the brightness, quite a rise in the top end. You can just sweep that round if you want that to be even more extreme, or coming round to the bottom end if you want it to start cutting at a lower frequency. And as I said before, vice versa with the EQ gain. So we can have that working literally right from the very lowest frequency, times 10 mode out, right down to 26 Hertz. And if you sweep that round, you'll see it starts working at a slightly higher frequency, higher, higher, higher. And then engage the times 10, and go back to the bottom and start sweeping. But instead of this now being 26 Hertz, this is 260 Hertz because it's times 10. And same idea as you sweep upwards. So that's a slightly more technical overview of what the Niveau filter does. And finally, if you go back to Elysia's site, on the Niveau filter page, they've actually got some nice audio examples of their own, which you can use for inspiration. So I think quite a good example of this is let me just stop that for a second, is these Niveau twins. What they've done here is they've used two in series. So what one is doing is cutting the bottom end and then boosting above the cut frequency. One is cutting the high end and then cutting and then boosting the lower frequency. So you get a real sort of buzzsaw guitar sound. Let's have a quick listen to that one. So I can imagine this being let me just get rid of that. I can imagine this being really useful wherever you'd use a high or a low pass filter, but you want to add a bit of extra action to the EQ as well. So things like drum kit overheads, it would be really useful on cleaning up sounds where there's not a lot of low end energy. Acoustic guitar, vocals both spring to mind, so you can add a little bit of brightness at the same time as you're cleaning up the bottom end. Like all these things, ultimately it's going to be up to you and your taste, but as it's a freebie, download, play away, have a really good experiment. I've been James Muir, thanks for watching.